Hi, scholars! Today we are going to finish reading If a Bus Could Talk, the story of Rosa Parks by Faith Ringgold. Yesterday, we left off about what kind of systems do you see so far in the story. They came up with a system for the Montgomery bus boycott. Let's keep reading. The Montgomery bus boycott was the beginning of a national movement in which people of every race organized protests against segregation in their own towns. The boycotts spread to department stores where Black people were not allowed to return articles of clothing they had bought or to try on clothes before buying them. You mean Miss Rosa could not try on a pair of shoes or return a dress that did not fit? I asked. Yes, Marcy. I know it's difficult for young people today to understand what life under the segregation laws was really like. There were eat-ins, too, where Black people and white sympathizers would sit at, for whites only, lunch counters and have food poured over their heads by the hissing crowds. What was Rosa's impact within her community? This movement of change that she was inspiring spread to people who fight segregation in their own towns. So here we have a couple Black people right here sitting at the counter, and then we have one white friend right here who is sitting with these Black friends who agrees with them, saying, "You should not be treated terribly. You are allowed to sit at this counter with me." But then we have all of these people over here who are treating them badly and pouring food all over them. So all of these people right here were working together to try to fight segregation. They wanted to get rid of segregation. They didn't think that Black people and white people should be separated. They think that everybody should be able to be equal. Let's keep reading. But there was no sadder sight on a hot summer day than Black children outside a public swimming pool displaying a "For Whites Only" sign. Mrs. Parks' case finally reached the highest court in our land, and on November 13, 1956, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that segregation on public buses was against the law. A little more than a month later, the boycott ended. Black people no longer had to ride in the back of the bus, but the struggle for equal rights was not over. Rosa lost her $25 a week job at the Montgomery Fair department store, and she continued to receive threatening phone calls and letters. Why do you think that they continued to fight for fair laws? Well, they realized that when they finally got the law passed for everybody to be able to ride on the same bus, they thought, maybe everybody can use the same water fountain. Maybe everybody can go to school together. Maybe, just maybe, we don't have to be segregated. A year later, Rosa and Raymond Parks moved to Detroit, where Rosa worked for Congressman John Conyers of Michigan. There she was able to help homeless people find decent housing, jobs, and community services. Mrs. Parks' struggle for equal rights continued. On August 28, 1963, at Dr. King's March on Washington, Rosa Parks was honored with a Tribute to Women award by A. Philip Randolph. However, she was not asked to speak. And later, when she heard on the radio that Dr. King had been shot, Rosa wept in her mother's arms. Many tributes and awards have been given to this gentle, courageous woman. A bronze bust of Mrs. Parks is installed at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. She was awarded the Spingarn Medal, the Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent Peace Prize, the Eleanor Roosevelt Woman of Courage Award, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Mrs. Parks has received countless honorary degrees, plaques, and honors for her valiant act of courage and unceasing dedication to freedom. But what this old bus is proudest of is that Cleveland Avenue, the street this bus ran on, has been renamed Rosa Parks Boulevard. So how is Rosa Parks remembered today? How is she honored? Well, she has a street named after her, and she was given numerous awards for her courageous work for freedom and fairness. In addition to all this, once a year we get together to celebrate the great lady's birthday. Amen, amen, said the passengers. We know, we were there. And just like that, the bus stopped and Mrs. Parks herself got on. All the passengers stood up to meet her, and when she greeted them by name, Parks, E.D. Nixon, Dr. King, and the rest, I remembered them from her story. The once unfamiliar passengers now had faces I would never forget. I am so excited to meet you, Mrs. Parks, I said gleefully. You really are the mother of the civil rights movement, and I am so lucky to be here. May I ask what gave you such a strong belief in freedom? My belief in freedom goes way back to the days when my mother used to sing the old Negro spiritual, "Oh, freedom over me," said Mrs. Parks. Let's sing it together. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Now it's time for you to cut your birthday cake, Mrs. Parks, said the talking bus. Mrs. Parks closed her eyes, drew a deep breath, and blew out all the candles. Happy birthday, Mrs. Parks, said the passengers, and may our dreams of freedom and equal opportunity for all people come true. We love you and we thank you for being the lady who, by sitting down, inspired people all over the world to stand up for freedom. Amen, amen. We know. We were there. Why do you think the author wrote this book? The author wrote this book to inform us about Rosa Parks and how she worked hard to make the world a better place during segregation. By the time the talking bus reached my school, my head was crammed full of all the things that had happened. When I got up this morning, little did I know that I would be attending Mrs. Parks' birthday party on the very bus she was arrested on. I can't wait to tell my class about this. The end. Do you think the title, If a Bus Could Talk, do you think that title is a good title for our book? Write your thoughts in the comments below.